Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here with us to celebrate International Women's Day during Women's History Month. This is a momentous occasion because there are an historic 6 women serving on the council, the most ever in our county's history, and I'm so proud to share this moment with these 5 other councilwomen and proclaiming today's International Women's Day. And so in a moment, you'll hear from each of the councilwomen, but I'll just kick us off with a few brief remarks, and then we're going to hear from some very special guests who have joined us here today. And so we know that Women's History Month is a time to celebrate women and all that we have achieved, but we still have so much more to do. American women recently celebrated the centennial of a woman's right to vote. We can also see that not only are we guaranteed the right to vote, but we're still fighting for equal rights in many other respects. This can be seen with the radical decisions by the Supreme Court in overturning Roe v. Wade, taking over a woman's bodily autonomy. Our community will continue to celebrate Women's History Month to recognize, again, how far we've come, but yet how far we still have to go. As the only Black woman to serve as an at-large member in the lead for eliminating disparities in public health, I know how important it is to foster a culture of equity, diversity, and inclusion, synonymous with this year's Women's History Month theme, especially when evaluating our budget requests and priorities. This Friday, for the official International Women's Day, I look forward to our breakfast and banter breakfast with the 6 councilwomen. We'll be discussing issues in the areas of education, public health, economic development, and public safety. This is our 2nd annual Women's History Month event that we've organized since last year, where we have brought together a panel of dynamic women. Last year, we brought together media professionals to speak about the sacrifices they made to lead their careers, juggling motherhood and being a woman in spaces where they're not always welcome. This year, we are excited to welcome our first woman comptroller, Brooke Learman, as our keynote speaker on Friday. And we are excited to have a room full of women who will join us at Black Rock to talk about ways we can ensure that every space we enter and we take up room will make room for all women. And we will prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues to say a few words.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our International Women's Day proclamation. I want to give a huge shout out to my favorite international woman, my daughter, Emily. And I want to lift up the very important work that she's doing in gender pay equity, not only in the UK, but around the world. We know that many women have not experienced economic stability or economic independence. There are obstacles to education, to jobs, to job career ladders, and to the creation of wealth. And besides all of those obstacles, women are achieving at the greatest heights, not only in business, in politics, in sports, in the arts. And so many of the older women in the room will appreciate Ginger Rogers. So Ginger Rogers did the exact same thing as Fred Astaire, only she did it backwards and in high heels. And so we've achieved so very much. And I want to thank the people who are here today for your support. Women succeed because women nurture other women through love and support of the women in our lives and the men in our lives. Thank you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Councilwoman Balcombe. And next we'll hear from Councilwoman Natalie Fani-González, then Councilmember Luedtke, Councilmember Mink, and then our Council Vice President, Kate Stewart.
Good morning. My name is Natalie Fani-González. I'm going to keep it short just because you're going to see a video. Is that coming out today? No, that's not okay. Never mind. You're not gonna see any videos. I would say every time I think of Women Month, or I always think about my mom, and it's hard not to, because I'm the person that I am today because of her and all her sacrifices. So I guess as a mother now, what I tell my daughter is to say what my mom said to me. Do everything what you do with integrity and dedication and keep moving forward. That's just the way to go, and I think women really understand that. And I'm trying to be a good role model, not just for my daughter, but for her little friends too. Always following that advice. With that, I thank you so much, and we have, what do you say was next? Don Luedtke, go ahead.
Thank you. Much like Councilmember Fani-González and Councilmember Mink, we have some young ladies in our families who will be reaching the age of majority soon, and I know how incredibly important it is for them to be able to see us, all of us collectively, do the things we do and do them without fear and with great passion. And we are 6 very different women, and I love it. But what I also love is that we are in a place and space where we can talk about women's needs, particularly in the medical field, right? And I happened to see something that Delegate Dana Jones from Anne Arundel County had posted yesterday, and she is near and dear to me as a friend. But it was a gentleman speaking at a medical conference, and he was talking about pain management with IUDs, right? And the punchline of the whole thing was that for years that hasn't been taken very seriously, the ability to have a device and one to manage and also to manage the pain in the process. And that if this was a contraceptive procedure that was applicable to men, it would have been treated as serious as a heart attack. But here we are, right? But it's important for us to have allies in our male colleagues, in our other male policymakers who help support these types of things and help elevate these issues along with us. And we have that ability here. I can affirmatively say that the 5 gentlemen sitting behind us support each and every one of us day in and day out in our work, and I am blessed to have them as colleagues and friends. I look forward to celebrating International Women's Day on March 8th. It happens to also be, it was my grandmother's birthday, and it is my father's birthday because she had him on her birthday. So March 8th is always a special day for me, but extra special because I know my grandmother, who was no wallflower, would be very happy at where we are now and what we are doing. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to stand with these 5 extraordinary councilwomen and to have the privilege of serving alongside of them. I wanted to mention some of the folks who we celebrate and lift up during this month and this day are trans women and our non-binary folks, gender non-conforming, gender expansive. This is a time when we make sure that we recognize the challenges and the accomplishments of our gender minorities and of all women. And there are, unfortunately, some spaces and some places even today who see that as counter to the goals of cisgender women, and I'm grateful to be here in Montgomery County where we recognize that that is absolutely not the case. That is the opposite of the case. We are stronger when we all stand together. The success of all women and all of our gender minorities lifts all of us up, and I am just very grateful to be here in Montgomery County in a place and in a space where we stand together and recognize that to be true.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here today, and I have the benefit of going last with these incredible women. So part of me just wants to say ditto, because each of them have talked individually about the importance of this day, of lifting up and recognizing International Women's Day. And for me, having actually worked for a time in the international space, I think about the theme that runs across everything that my colleagues just said and the relationships I got to build in the work that I did. And it's about resilience, it's about persistence and compassion. And that no matter what work I have been doing or thinking about the women in my life and internationally, those are the themes that keep coming up for me. Whether we're talking about the economics, education issues, overcoming restrictions on bodily autonomy. It is about resilience, persistence, and compassion, and the coming together and the working together. So I just want to say thank you also for everyone who's joined us here today and the work that you do every day to continue so that we are making great strides. And again, I just want to thank my colleagues and particularly Councilmember Sayles. We've gotten to celebrate International Women's Day together for a number of years now, and I'm glad to do it on the County Council together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And we could not do this work without our incredible allies. And I want to thank the National Organization for Women, President Jeanette Felder, who will provide remarks. Come on up, Jeanette. And the Maryland Women's Business Center, Managing Director Danette Nguyen, who will provide brief remarks as well. We also have representatives from the Montgomery County Commission for Women, the National Pan-Hellenic Council of Montgomery County, the Crittenden Girls of Greater Washington, Community Bridges, and MoCo Empower Her, and their co-chair, Avez Hazrat. Come on up, ladies.
Okay. The theme of this year's International Women's Day is Women Who Advocate for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. The National Organization for Women, these 6 dedicated Montgomery County Council members, the groups gathered here, we are women who advocate for equity, diversity, and inclusion. We understand that for a positive future, we need to eliminate bias and discrimination entirely from our lives and our institutions. Gloria Steinem, world-renowned feminist, journalist, and activist, once explained, "The story of women's struggle for equality belongs to no single feminist, nor to any one organization, but to the collective efforts of all who care about human rights. We who advocate and fight for equity, diversity, and inclusion are inspired by the example of women who make history by strengthening our commitment to the intersectional principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion. International Women's Day isn't county, country, group, or organization specific. It's a day of collective global activism and celebration that belongs to all those committed to forging women's equality. So make International Women's Day your day and do what you can to make a positive difference for women. One thing you can do right now is sign the National ERA petition stating, "I strongly support the Equal Rights Amendment to the United States Constitution as the 28th Amendment." That amendment reads, "Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex." And you can find that petition at sign, SIGN, 4, the number 4, ERA.org, sign4era.org. Having the Equal Rights Amendment in our U.S. Constitution will strengthen our efforts towards true equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I will have, this information is on a table in the back, and it has the link. There's a QR code, so you can sign. Please do that today, and share it with your friends. When we inspire others to understand and value women's inclusion, we forge a better world. And when women themselves are inspired to be included, there's a sense of belonging, relevance, and empowerment. Collectively, let's forge a more inclusive Montgomery County Council and world for women. Because the County Council has proclaimed it to be so. Put your hands together like this. This is this year's theme. Inspire inclusion. So that's what we shall do. Inspire inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Feldner. And lastly, we're going to have very brief remarks from the Maryland Women's Business Center Managing Director. Women were the largest population that left the workplace during the pandemic, and so we are so excited about their economic recovery with this effort.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here on behalf of the Maryland Women's Business Center as we celebrate International Women's Day. But I honestly couldn't do it without my team, so I want to recognize Ronika and Martha Jimenez, who are in the audience as well. This year's theme of women who advocate for equity, diversity, and inclusion resonates deeply with our mission to empower women entrepreneurs and foster inclusivity and diversity in Maryland's capital region. By providing counseling, training, and access to resources for women entrepreneurs, we're not only empowering individuals, but also contributing to the strength of our localities and economic vitality. Thank you to the Montgomery County Council for their leadership in recognizing the vital role of women entrepreneurship in our community and the broader economic landscape.
And now we will read the proclamation. All right.
Thank you. Whereas International Women's Day, which began with the struggle for women's and workers' rights, was declared an official holiday by the United Nations on March 8, 1977, to honor the feminist movement dedicated to equal pay, equal rights, reproductive rights, and the prevention of violence against women. And whereas
the theme of this year's International Women's Day, women who advocate for equity, diversity, and inclusion, recognizes women throughout the world who understand that for a positive future, we need to eliminate bias and discrimination from our lives and institutions. And
whereas women are a majority on the Montgomery County Council and of Montgomery County's population, and make an immeasurable positive impact on our quality of life, economy, and add to the diversity of our communities. And
whereas on International Women's Day, we acknowledge that women's rights and bodies are under attack and advocate for protective policies. And
whereas from civil and women's rights advocates like Dorothy Height to political leaders like Shirley Chisholm and distinguished authors like Maya Angelou, women have always been at the forefront of the fight for equity and inclusion of diverse groups throughout our nation's history. And
whereas women belong in the halls of power where decision-making happens, and we are committed to ensuring everyone has the right to dignity, respect, and equal access to opportunity. Now, therefore, are we all going to do it together? Come on, now, everybody, right? Read the therefore. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby recognizes International Women's Day as an essential holiday to respect and to celebrate women's immense contributions and sacrifices in Montgomery County and worldwide. Thank you.
today.
Yes.